WNST, Tassel, Baltimore, and WNST.net. It is tournament week around here, and, small tournaments, big tournaments. I have my MEAC, a Coppin State banner behind us, UMBC on the prowl, and Luke Jones, the Maryland Terrapins, finally sort of get up and run again against the Michigan Wolverines and Juwan Howard, making us all feel like, well, maybe I'll stay up late on Friday night, huh?
Certainly an exhale kind of game, an important win for them. There's no question about that. I thought the first half was as well as they've played in quite some time. One of their best halves of the year as far as just coming out and playing good defensively, getting to the basket, not settling for three-point shots like we'd seen here in recent games. So that was really good to see. They get the win. They get the share of the Big Ten title. Look, Mark Turgeon was talking about the 1,000-pound gorilla off his back after the game. I think that talk is way too premature because what happens in the NCAA tournament is really, that's the gorilla there.
What if you lose to a 14 seed?
Right, exactly. So I understand the excitement, and look, this was a really good Big Ten this year. So having a share of the Big Ten regular season title is not something to just take for granted. However, the context of having lost 3 out of 4 going into Sunday, knowing they had a couple-game lead and they end up having to share the title with Wisconsin and Michigan State, that's...
They stumbled to the finish line. They squandered the Big Ten titles, what they did.
They did. But that being said, the way that they played on Sunday, getting back to what had really been their DNA, which was playing good defense, especially in the first half. Second half defense wasn't quite as strong. They gave up 40 points, so 42 points to be exact. So not quite as dominant in the second half, but what they were able to do there, their willingness to go to the basket and score at the basket, and what we saw specifically from Eric Ayala and Aaron Wiggins. We've talked so much about those two being an X factor for this team. I mean, you have to get what Cowan and Jalen Smith offer night in and night out. I mean, if they don't get that from those two guys, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a team that is dangerous, if you want to be a team that can make a deeper run in March, it comes down to getting more from Ayala and Wiggins. And, okay, maybe they're not going to combine for 34 points the way they did on Sunday, but if they can give you more than they had in recent games, then you see this team become that much more dangerous. So I think the gorilla is not off Mark Turgeon's back, contrast to what he said after the game on Sunday, but certainly an accomplishment to feel good about, and I think a really important confidence boost for this team to beat a team that was in the top 25. Michigan's not great, but they're certainly a solid basketball team, an NCAA tournament basketball team. And now you get a chance, a couple days off here, and get to Indy and then play late on Friday night and kind of wait around. It could be Nebraska, it could be Indiana, it could be Penn State on Friday night, but certainly a weekend that Maryland hoping to do a little more damage. And I'm not lathered up about winning the Big Ten conference tournament. I mean, certainly it's great if you can do it, but...
Well, this is always that week, right, where we sit around and say, hey, they got to win the conference tournament. Maybe they shouldn't win the conference tournament. And every year we say that, and they never do, so we don't have to worry about that, right? If they're still playing on Sunday, they beat Michigan State on Saturday night, we'll all sit around and say, yeah, Maryland. That would worry me for the actual tournament, right? And we all know the most important things next week. I've never come to terms with the significance of these conference tournaments other than making money, gathering fans, seeing pretty girls on the sidelines and pep bands and getting together and all that. I mean, I went down to D.C. a couple of years ago in that Michigan game that they lost. I would just say this. I don't need them to prove anything in Indianapolis for me. If they go and take a facer on Friday night and lose to Bemidji State, doesn't matter to me. They'll be a 3 seed and wait for the brackets at 7 o'clock on Sunday night, and let's see where we go. For me, I don't need them playing 3 games this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd like to avoid the one and done scenario because looking at some of the bracketologists, some of their projections, you see Maryland kind of hovering at that 3/4 line for the NCAA tournament.
Well, you wind up on a plane to Sacramento or something is what happens, right?
Well, there's that. I mean, keep in mind they do have the potting system.
They do.
With the first 2
No
rounds.
chance for Spokane this time, we think, unless they don't like you, right?
Yeah. But
if it was Gary, he'd just say, they don't like me up there. They don't like me out there.
Mark Turgeon doesn't shy away from complaining. We've heard that with start times for Big Ten.
If I had my sound effects, I would play my crying sound effect like I did back in the 90s, you know.
But your point is well taken. And look, I always point to 2004, John Gilchrist. That was a lot of fun. But everyone forgets that the 2002 national champions lost in the semifinals of the ACC tournament. So how important is it? I think it'd be nice to at least get one more win, build a little more confidence, and certainly have a good showing at the very least in the semifinal, presumably against Michigan State. I mean, you never know. But I'm with you as far as the general sentiment, as far as playing 3 straight days and not knowing what impact that could have. We know this isn't a deep team, so 3 straight days, and then if you'd have to turn around and play on Thursday for the first round of the NCAA tournament, then yeah, you're wondering about fatigue. You're wondering about how well rested this team's going to be. So I don't think you go out there and go through the motions. You want to play well, but I'm with you from the standpoint of I think I'd much rather, and I think most fans feel this way, you'd much rather see a deeper run in the NCAA tournament, get to, say, the Sweet 16 at the very least, than this idea of winning the Big Ten tournament and then you're out in the second round in the NCAA. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the Big Ten conference tournament is meaningless, but I think there's always a sentiment of bigger fish to fry, assuming you're that at-large lock that Maryland very much is. At this point, it's just a case of, can you get yourself comfortably on that 3 line? Depending on what happens with other teams, could you still find a way back onto the 2 line? I mean, a lot would have to happen there, but certainly you don't want to be in a position where you're going one and done and real lackluster. Say it's Penn State, and you go through the motions, and then suddenly you're looking at the possibility of, if some other teams win, some other teams make deep runs in conference tournaments, then I don't know, maybe you're in danger of not even being a 4 seed. So you want to have a decent showing, but I'm with you from the standpoint of I don't think there's some enthusiastic cry to absolutely need to win the almost said the ACC tournament, the Big Ten tournament, and play 3 straight days, and then because we've talked about the fatigue, we saw it with some of the defense, we saw it with certainly struggling from outside as far as some of these recent losses. So,
well, it felt like the road got to be a little heavy too. It's we're into March now, right?
Well, and the expectations were high, and Turgeon even talked about that. He said he didn't know how well his team was handling expectations. I mean, go back to that Sunday of that Ohio State game where there was some thought that Maryland with a win could have moved on to the 1 line. So clearly things haven't gone well since then, but a nice win Sunday, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm with you from the standpoint of this team doesn't need to win the Big Ten tournament or anything like that, but you'd like to at least get to Saturday, play well, get another win under your belts, and then get a few days to regroup and rest and get ready for the tournament that really matters.
When you got 14 teams running around, I know there was a little bit of muddiness over the weekend on the Big Ten brackets. Nebraska plays Indiana on Wednesday night. Winner gets Penn State on Thursday, and then the winner of that. So, probably Penn State, maybe Nebraska or Indiana will be the Friday night game, and that'll be late into the night, so Turge can be upset that we have Maryland's literally the last team in the Big Ten to play on Friday night, so they will have as much rest as anybody, but would have to come back immediately on Saturday, probably against Michigan State, and then who knows what comes out of the north side of the top of the bracket with Wisconsin and everyone else. We're going to be monitoring it all week long, monitoring all things basketball. We're going to get to some baseball, obviously some football news going to be happening here in the next week as well. But it certainly feels like college basketball has its sort of time this week, right? Like whether it's UMBC winning, whether it's Towson playing on Sunday night, all the MEAC has Morgan and Coppin. There's plenty of basketball to go around. It's a true conference tournament week, and more so than anything, Luke, teams have a chance here locally. We do not have all of the little dregs when Coppin was winless in its conference or Towson was winless in its conference or Loyola couldn't get up and walk. Basketball has gotten better across the board here for the week, I think.
Yeah, and that always makes it fun. I mean, clearly, I think the focus on most fans is how the Terps do in this area. But I mean, there's plenty of excitement with UMBC. I mean, what they've been able to do, and can they get back to an NCAA tournament? As you mentioned, Coppin better than they've been in recent years. I mean, so I mean, there's certainly some interest, some intrigue there. As far as some of the other locals. So
Towson's out, by the way. Womp, womp. They lost to Northeastern the other night. So,
Towson on Sunday night. But, I mean, there's certainly some intrigue to see if the state can get another team in there. And certainly Maryland, there's going to be a lot of attention on them. But always fun when you can root for an underdog. I mean, we saw that with UMBC clearly against Virginia a couple years ago. I mean, that was great. So it's fun, and I mean, this is a fun time, even if you're a more casual college basketball fan, and as much as we just spent time talking about the Big Ten tournament, some of these other conference tournaments are a lot of fun. We can talk about the fairness of the regular season champion in some of these conferences if they get knocked out in their conference tournament, even though they won and won their conference pretty convincingly. But there's a lot of excitement, and all of these conferences that maybe you haven't spent a shred of time watching, suddenly you find yourself watching a conference championship game and knowing that the winner is going to fulfill a dream of going to the NCAA tournament. So it's a lot of fun on the back end of, certainly.
UMBC gets their chance to go up to Vermont and, make a mess again on Tuesday night. So, it's a good week here. I mean, there's a game on every night. It feels like Towson was on Sunday night before they lost, right? I mean, Loyola last week lost, but that's fine. I mean, but everyone gets their chance this week, and that's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it really is. Like I said, you can just kind of get caught up in some random conference tournament championship games. And
I got caught up in a random Duke North Carolina game the other night, and I thought it mattered for a couple of minutes.
Well, yeah. I mean, North Carolina is one of those teams that you don't think of them as a Cinderella, but they're a team that, hey, go win the ACC tournament and you're in the dance. So you see some of those, maybe not North Carolina per se, but some of these small schools, these mid-majors, and it's a lot of fun, and especially with free agency still another week away. In the NFL, we're still a couple weeks out until the start of baseball season. Lacrosse season's just getting going here over the last couple weeks. So this is, you just said it, this is March Madness. I mean, this is anyone who watches college basketball, starting with some of those early November tournaments. Yeah, this is dream time for you. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And like we said, even if we're not so much lathered up about Maryland in the Big Ten tournament, knowing that they're a lock regardless of what happens, it is fun, and certainly some local schools still left that have a lot to play for.
The bench over the weekend for the Terps, and not much of a bench, but what is left of the bench there, the sixth player, the Ayala Wiggins thing, to see those guys get up and start to play a little better, that was a good sign for me after what they've been through. But I'm almost a little dismissive of Sunday because it's a home game, right? And that's sort of the way Maryland likes to look at home, wants to look at home, should look at home, top 10 team, all of that. I do worry when they get on these sleepy neutral floors. I mean, they're going to be playing Penn State in front of, 1,800 fans at 10 o'clock at night in Indiana on Friday night, right? Like, literally, that's what it's going to look like. That's usually when things go nighty-night for them. They feed off the right kind of energy in some way.
Yeah, and I think they'll have a better crowd. I mean, usually you have to worry about, like, the noon game, right? Especially if you don't have the double bye. Like, if you're playing I think Rutgers plays the noon game on Thursday against Michigan. Those are the types of games you got to watch out for because, depending on travel, people haven't gotten in for the weekend. So I don't think it'll be too bad in that regard, but you got to wait around a long time. You always hear about NFL teams talk about that for Monday Night Football, where you've watched everyone play on Sunday, and then you got to wait around all day on Monday to play, and sometimes there can be some lethargic feelings that set in, and not that you're tired, but there's some fatigue, I guess, viewer fatigue, let's say. So there's some of that. There's a challenge of that, but I think when you are talking about a team that doesn't have a lot of depth, I think having a few days here now to recalibrate in the same way that they had to coming into the Michigan game on Sunday. I mean, they had the disappointing performance at Rutgers where, not just that they lost, but I think even the effort, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of energy that team had at that point, and that was coming off of the Michigan.
And there was
State
plenty
loss.
of energy in that building, right? I mean, literally, Rutgers was on fire last Tuesday.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I do take some encouragement from Sunday. I'm with you from the standpoint of they're playing at home, but just the way they played in that first half, I think that was good to see. As far as the bench, I did think it was interesting that it seemed like Sorrell Smith kind of got back ahead of Hakeem Hart, who'd been getting minutes, and we saw Sorrell Smith do some decent things in the Rutgers game as well. So maybe that's a sign that he can give. I mean, he only played a couple minutes on Sunday, so I don't want to make too much out of it, but that's a sign maybe he can be someone that gives you a contribution here or there in the same way that we talk about a guy like a Ricky Lindo. But it's the top six for this team. We know that. We've known that for a while. Certainly it's we talk about the two stars, but I think the X factors continue to be Ayala and Aaron Wiggins. I mean, I think we both see how those two can contribute and play when they're on their game, but you need that. You can't just have two guys doing all of it. You need that third option in any given game. And they got their third and fourth options on Sunday, and you saw what the Terps were able to do. So I think, especially Wiggins, I mean, he's such a talent. I think you look at his athleticism, you look at the size. I mean, when those two are right, this is a really dangerous basketball team. When those two are playing well, this is when you think of this team being able to go to the Final Four or making that kind of run. Not saying it will happen, but if you're looking for the blueprint for how it can happen. In the same way that, the 2002 Terps, you think of Juan Dixon and Lonnie Baxter, but you think of the contributions that Byron Mouton gave them or what Steve Blake was able to do.
My favorite all-time Terp, you just mentioned him, by the way.
Yeah,
Byron
Chris
Mouton.
Wilcox, what he did that year before going pro. I mean, that was a really... I mean, maybe they weren't a team that you thought of as 10, 11 deep, but they had a top 8 or top 9 that, boy, I mean, they had guys that could really score and do special things for you. So this team being 6 deep, or, it's almost an oxymoron to say 6 deep because that's not deep, but we know that this team needs more than just Anthony Cowan and Jalen Smith. So it was good to see them do what they did. We've seen Daryl Morcell step up from time to time. Dante Scott has been really impressive at times for a freshman. So we'll see what happens. I mean, they need a little bit of rest here, and I think going back to your point about not caring about this team winning the Big Ten tournament, if there's an argument that you can make for that more than anything, it's the fact that they are only 6 deep, and you play 3 straight days, and then you get a draw where you have to play a Thursday game relatively early, depending on how it all shakes out, then I think there'd be some uneasiness that sets in.
Yeah, I don't need Cowan playing 6 hours of basketball in 48 hours, essentially, literally.
Sure. So, but I think there's a happy medium there. I think at the same time, you don't want to show up Friday night and get boat raced and you're out of it, and then everyone...
Do what we do, show up for the shrimp cocktail and have our noses run in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah, exactly. Spend a little bit of time there, at least get to Saturday, and then what happens after that, I don't really have a strong inclination one way or the other. Just be in a position where when you are playing, don't be in a position where you're just sleepwalking and you get blown out or anything like that.
You don't want to find yourself lonely and out of the tournament at 2 a.m. at the Slippery Noodle in downtown Indianapolis, right?
Yeah, after a 17-point loss where you just kind of plays out how it did against Rutgers. You don't want something like that. Then you're sitting around and wondering, okay, is it a 4 seed? What's it going to be there? So, like I said, get to Saturday, and then after that, I don't really have a strong preference. And if you bow out after that and you get an extra day or two to rest, then great. Be ready to play come Thursday or Friday.
Luke Jones can be found, Luke at WNST.net. He is Baltimore Luke out on the Twitter thing. We're banging around Instagram. I'm out on LinkedIn this week. We're doing Baltimore positive stuff. You will hear from Sheila Dixon this week. You will hear from our partner Frank Kelly, who's hosting big things at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes banquet with Ed Reed this week. I've got a big night on Wednesday night with Sports Boosters and Quint Kessenich, talking some lacrosse and some baseball as well. You'll definitely Be hearing from Quint this week as we do a little lacrosse to get ready for that as well. Baseball, football, basketball, we got it all going on around here, and certainly not sticking to sports in the political season. All the mayor candidates up now at Baltimore Positive. You'll be hearing that in the coming weeks as well from Mary Miller, Mary Washington, TJ Smith, Jack Young, Brandon Scott, Thiru Vignaraja, all up in the repository at Baltimore Positive. Big shout out to our friends at Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast, tasty coffee. I got the Western fries last month. I am in the mood for some fried chicken. I'll get in there for that. But you can always gas up, get your rewards points. Make sure you're using your card, or you can use your app and gas up with Royal Farms. You get your chicken for free. It tastes even better when it's free. Raskin Global with us. I'm wearing the shirt today. We had Leonard Raskin on this week talking about all the things they're doing. 24th and 26th, a couple of seminars so you can learn a little bit more about this Cure Act. It's going to affect you. So check that out. RaskinGlobal.com for more information on all things investment. Liberty Pure Solutions, drinking the clean water around here. We're hoarding all of these things. It's a good thing I got a couple of cases of Liberty Pure water in the trunk of the car, this whole coronavirus thing, emptying out shelves. Local water, pure water, Liberty Pure Water. We're teaching you about safe water around here with my friend Doug Workman as well. Pizza John's, always around the corner, except on Mondays. Get the ravioli. Make sure you check out the ice cream. I didn't know they had chocolate beer there, but they do at Pizza John's. I just go for the pizza. I'm boring like that. And the cheesesteaks. And the ravioli, and the pasta, and the wings, all the good stuff. Pizza John's, Back River Neck Road in Essex. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Terps basketball and Baltimore sports.